door though. I can just walk out. This door. You're coming to the cheap seats. Good. This way I don't have to visit there. Look at the door.
Yep.
Just so everybody is aware, it's the same price for seats up here as it is in the mezzanine. So, but if you're comfortable, stay there. But if you'd like to move up and you be able to have a much better vision of Stu as president, or you may want to stay back there. I'm not passing any judgment. Is that okay?
Sure.
And there goes Rob walking out because he doesn't want to hear my comebacks. Good evening. Welcome to my first general membership meeting as president. I do have some good news for the board members that are here. The bathrooms have been fixed. So therefore, instead of having you go home for the board meeting, we can have Minion, and then after that have a Board of Trustees meeting, which, as you saw, is chock full of information. So, the purpose of tonight's meeting is to review our budget, which all of you have received a copy in the email. And I just want to go through the, and I apologize, I am doing this on behalf of Paul Duboff. Not that I apologize for being Paul Duboff, but Paul was unable to attend tonight, and he asked me to make the presentation. And I'm going to say hi to Paul because this is being live streamed, and everyone else who's live streamed. So, each division of the center is presented with projected income and expenses and the net income or loss for that division. First in summary format, then followed by detailed accounts. If you would like a copy, I left copies on the edge of the bima. So let's go through and explore some of the items that caused us to project this deficit. First, some positive items. High holiday sales, we anticipate with an increase in ticket sales this year as more people are expected to attend services, and the rate is raised slightly. Room rental charges, including the gym, continue to increase. And I wish to thank Rita for being out there and getting people to utilize our gym. It's my understanding our gym is being utilized almost every night of the week for leagues. So we got a hot commodity back there. Who's that? I'm just going through this in general.
So they're not on the sheet?
They're not on the sheet. Okay. Our pension payments are down due to the Cantor's retirement. And I'm proud to say that we've negotiated a great contract with our tenant, which provides us over $200,000, which certainly helped the cause. We continually meet with the tenant on a monthly basis to address any problems that or issues that the tenant has, and we are starting the last year of our lease, and we will begin negotiating with the tenant. On the negative side, members' dues are projected to be lower than in past years due to a reduction in membership count, as we are an aging congregation, and while we've signed a few members this year, we still are behind. High holiday expenses are expected to be higher this year since Cantor Weiss now is classified in this category and not in salaries, as he will be leading the high holiday services, as most of you know. In his place within salaries, the new part-time cantor is included. The Hebrew school deficit is slightly larger since there has been an increase in the number of students for the JCCP versus Fairlawn Jewish Center, which leads us to having to pay a greater percentage of the expenses, and and that is reflected in the budget. The one thing we're continuing to work on with members of the education group and youth group is the projected deficit on the youth group. We want to make sure, which is about $7,000, we want to make sure that we're billing back the other schools for their share of costs. That group and I are meeting probably within the next 2 weeks to discuss it. Thirdly, the dinner dance has been converted to a cocktail party / dessert and is presented as a break even. In the past, it has been a major fundraiser, which I think in 2019 was about $35,000 or thereabouts. And there are also anticipated repairs to Virginia Court, which I'd like to thank Joe Esrig, because I understand that our air conditioning system yesterday needed Freon. He was able to put it in free of charge. However, the Freon did cost us about $750, Joe. Yeah. In addition, the sidewalks in the cemetery need repairs, and we have to pay for that. And unfortunately, the cemetery makes it very difficult for us to utilize our own contractors, so we have to utilize their in-house staff. As most congregations in the area, the areas are most as with most congregations, the areas that are most variable can be improved the most are income areas. And that is really the top line of the budget, which is the membership income. So we really got to continue recruiting, retaining current new members, retaining current members, increase programming, fundraising events, and catering events. Our expenses are largely consistent, whether by contract or regularity, and there is less room to modify areas that would make a considerable difference. As far as an increase in the members' charges for the current year, the finance recommends no increase in dues at this time. And I'll comment on that in that we have not raised the dues since 2020, which I think is really good. However, we are proposing a $50 increase in the security fee because we now have services here in the sanctuary, and we will be spending more on security. The fees will be increased from $50 to 100, which was the pre-COVID amount. In addition, there probably needs to be improvements to the gym floor and the baskets, which might amount to around $15,000. The gym floor needs to be sanded and then repainted, and we might, some of the leagues have asked us to make other improvements, such as variable height baskets, which will also help us with modifications, saying to our tenant, we've improved the space. At this point, I'd like to ask if anybody has any comments regarding the budget. Okay. Thank you. I thank you, Mr. Parliamentarian. The motion is to accept the budget as presented for the year July 1st, 2023 and June 30th, 2024 with the additional proposed gym repairs.
I second that, Stu.
Okay. Now we can have questions. I'm sorry, but I don't know your name. Yeah. Yeah, sure. This way everybody can hear you.
That's right, moved up here. Good evening, everyone. I'm here because I care. I was bar mitzvahed here, and this place is something special. Forgive me, I'm not an accountant, so forgive my ignorance in the subject. There's a few Okay, where should I start? Okay, better? Okay. I care about this place. I was bar mitzvahed here, and it really means something to me. But I read through the budget, and I have some questions. I'm not an accountant, so forgive my ignorance on this subject. We have projected numbers. I do not understand why we don't have the actual numbers, or why this meeting wasn't postponed to get actual numbers. There's a big difference between the projected budget loss of $153,000 compared to the budgeted of $190,000. I'm not sure exactly how many dues members we have. There's nothing in the budget for next year regarding capital improvements, such as flooding, boilers, roofs, etc. Salaries have been increased, both religiously and in the building. There's major increases when you're losing money. At least in my business, you think twice about raises. The fundraising committee has a negative loss of $1,500, which is hard for me to understand. The parsonage expenses went from $7,000 to $31,000 next year. Parsonage. The cemetery grounds, as you mentioned, went for an increase next year of $300 to $7,500. I do not understand the interest that's marked down as somewhere between $2,000 and $3,500, which means we only have $200,000 or $300,000 or more in assets in the bank account or whatever else. So you normally, when you get a balance sheet, you have the assets from the bank and whatever other assets you have against the expenses. I do not understand, what the expenses are, what we have in capital. And lastly, I hate to say it, but it looks like we can become insolvent in the next 2-3 years unless things are going to change and there's going to be new ideas or whatever. So That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
David, if you could actually stand, David, if you could actually stand here, and I can answer most of the questions off the top of my head. How many dues-paying members? It's approximately 275. Capital improvements, as a synagogue, we only have budgeted, and I realize I'm an accountant. You normally would budget capital improvements, for new boilers, a new roof, but we only budget it when we know we're going to expend the money. A few years ago, we budgeted for a new air conditioning system, a new roof, so we put those all in the budget. New parking lot, if I remember correctly, and I think that's it. Salary increases, religious. You're showing here. I'm taking your numbers at face value. Yeah, that's fine. It's 40 to 58. That is probably the increase in a part-time cantor to some extent. The parsonage expense, I cannot answer. The cemetery grounds and outdoor maintenance increased from 300 to 7,500. We anticipate that we're probably going to have to pay the cemetery about $7,000 to fix the sidewalks. I didn't mention that. Okay, fine. Now, I think David raised an extremely important point: the longevity of the temple, which has been bothering me for many years. I look back and I say, when I was financial secretary under Ken, I gave the temple about 3 years, 4 years, and that was probably 10 years ago. However, right now, we have, and I have a copy of it. We have approximately $2.1 million sitting in cash. It's not really cash. It's in laddered CDs, which mature within 30, 60, 90 days. They're less than $250,000. So should a situation happen like Silicon Valley Bank, where they went under, we would not be affected. One second.
Is that the New Milford money?
No, that's not the New Milford money.
There's additional funds in addition.
Yeah, that is as a result of the sale of the 3 pieces of property over there, the rabbi's house, the nursery school, and the caretakers. We have not, to a large extent, invaded, I'll call it that principle, except when we need it. Steve Julis, who's the treasurer, and I made a decision to transfer some money from that account over to our operating account within the last 30 days, because right now, cyclically, we're at a low level of cash because dues have been collected. Our dues show probably about $10,000 after a reserve. We are actively actively pursuing people who haven't paid. Thanks to Steve's hard work.
I could add that we just renewed one of those CDs, $250,000, 5.15% for an 18-month period.
And one of the things, and I'm glad you brought up the 5.185%. Many of these CDs that we have are older CDs, which are yielding probably around 2%. So as we renew them, we should be getting more interest on those CDs.
Thank you.
I think I've answered most of David's questions, and but the key question is the amount of cash that we as a center have. And based upon discussions that I've had with leaders of other temples, we are probably in one of the best shapes of all the temples in Bergen County because we have this cash balance. If we didn't, we would not be in as good a shape.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Maybe next time when we send out the budget, we could include something about the assets and something. to make
Yes.
life easier. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Okay. There was a motion on the floor to accept the budget for the year ended June 30th, 2024, with the addition of the gym repairs. I'd like to ask anybody who is opposed to that motion to raise their hand. For those of you who are on live stream, I had to look over to Jack and Harold and Rob. Oh, he did say no? I have to look over to them, but no, there are no no's. Therefore, the budget passes. Before you all make a mad dash out of the temple, we've changed something for tonight. Originally, the Board of Trustees meeting that was going to be held virtually can now be held here in the chapel. So I'd appreciate your going in, people going into the chapel if they wish to attend the Board of Trustees meeting. If you've made other arrangements, it'll still be on the Zoom. And Mimi does have, one second, Mimi does have a announcement that she would like to make.
Referring to last night, right?
Yes.
Yes. The first of the week, we're going to get an announcement, save the date, Sunday, November 5th. We are very happy to be honoring Debbie and Wayne Zyler for all the work they've done. And we are having, as I think someone referred to, instead of the usual dinner dance, this cocktail hour and dessert is a slightly different night, but it will be a very wonderful night, and I hope
adjourn the meeting and go to the chapel for minion. Is there a second to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, any opposed? Please, into the chapel for minion, and you're welcome to remain for the board meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Stu.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.